Imagine what the world would look like. Imagine what our lives would look like if people were truly kind to us. If we were truly kind to others. All right, everybody. We back with another reflection on the Daily Vedantic, and today's reflection is on the timeless advice and reorientation around kindness. Not niceness, but kindness. This is a phrase that is somewhat controversial because we confuse kindness with being nice all the time, pleasant, leaving nothing to be unpleasant in our attempt to be kind. And yet this is one of the most famous phrases from Shakespeare. It comes from Hamlet. And it's Hamlet speaking, saying he must be cruel only to be kind. This concept is so needed so often in the world we live in. Not all the time, every day, but often. A couple times a week. Maybe you need to have a hard conversation. Maybe you need to say something that isn't nice, that is unpleasant.
So you don't say that.
That someone at work does not want to hear, or a child. You know it's going to result in a bit of unpleasant reaction from the recipient of whatever you have to say. But it is liberation on the other end. For you, for that relationship, it is growth. It's getting something off of your chest, or it's just doing the right thing. And it's unpleasant in the beginning, but it is so pleasant, so much better. Conditions have improved massively on the other side of that unpleasant interim, on the other side of that discomfort. So what is this phrase saying? It is, to give an example, is like a 5-year-old that's bit by a wild animal, a dog in the street, and they need a shot to ensure that they don't develop rabies and it becomes fatal. That example, you have that child protesting like crazy, please, no, no more pain. They're already, pain stricken by the bite, already bleeding, freaking out, and you know better. You know that they need this shot or they could die. Or a helpful vaccine that wards off a potentially terminal disease, and it's as simple as taking a shot when the child is 3, 4, 5. And same scenario, they protest like crazy. But if our intellects and wisdom is the capacity to see the end in the beginning, then we recognize that momentary discomfort is absolutely critical for the comfort, safety, security on the other side of it. That momentary discomfort is critical. Not just helpful, but absolutely critical towards the thing that 5-year-old ultimately wants, which is their health back, their safety back. This cruel to be kind concept, it is a bitter pill to swallow for many of us because we think we should never be cruel. We should never rock the boat. So many of us are people pleasers. And when we people please, we're not thinking about the other people. We're thinking about ourselves. When we choose to not have a hard conversation or give critical and helpful feedback, we're not choosing the comfort for the other person. Because wisdom is the capacity to see the end in the beginning. We actually know that, if I don't say this, then they're going to run into a lot of discomfort in their life. If I don't do this hard thing, then that person or myself, there will be a lot of discomfort in the long run. It's an unwise lack of clarity, choosing momentary comfort for ourselves, and it's not for the other person. People pleasers. Such a misnomer. They're not choosing to please other people. They're choosing self-preservation in the midst of a community or a family or parents or a friend group where they're just deathly afraid of being kicked out, of not getting that relationship, not getting that affection or that sense of belonging, sense of security. They're so afraid of it, so fearful of losing it, that in turn they just say, I'm going to tell you whatever you want to hear. I'm going to do whatever you want me to do, as long as in return to that transaction, you'll give me a sense of belonging. I'm not going to think critically on what is best for you or what is best for this group of friends or this community. No. I'm going to do and say all the pleasing things so that I don't even have a semblance of being kicked out, because that would just be too painful. So I'd rather you suffer in the long run by me not telling you something that might be cruel to be kind. Might want you to suffer in the long run by not doing something that might seem harsh in the moment. I'm going to do and I'm going to say those things at your detriment for my benefit. It is misguided and misinterpreted, oftentimes by ourselves, as kindness. But as the Buddhists say, the right tool used in the wrong way becomes the wrong tool. That isn't kindness. Kindness is an unselfish act where it's not for your benefit. It's for the other person's. In fact, it might be to your detriment, and you willingly, voluntarily go into that cave saying, all right, yeah, I'm not going to benefit from this. This might set me back personally, but it's going to benefit them. My brother, oldest brother, he was married at 26 and divorced at 31. And when he got divorced, there's 4 of us, 4 boys, and the 3 of us looked at each other and were like, man, I kind of knew it, that they were not the right fit for each other. I never saw the attraction. It didn't seem like it was a natural fit or relationship. Kind of felt forced. We said these things to each other as we processed the news that they were getting divorced, and realized we all knew that the day he was getting married. We all knew that maybe 6 months into them dating. So fast forward 3 years, and a close friend of mine, one of my best friends from college, is dating a girl for about 4 years. And I saw the same things. It's like, hey, McCarn is his name. Hey, McCarn, you and Sarah, I don't think y'all are best fit for each other. And just bit the bullet, had the conversation with him to say that out loud, knowing that this is going to be quite dejecting. And said, I don't think y'all are the best fit for each other. You've been dating long distance for 2 years now, dating total for 4. And I have a feeling y'all are going to kind of just slip into engagement because you feel like that's the next step. And I want to say, I don't think that it's the right fit. I don't think, knowing you as well as I know you, knowing Sarah pretty well, I don't think this is the right relationship for either of you. I gave him the backstory of my brother and me not saying something, and it being a whole world of hurt because I didn't say something, and I wanted to avoid that world of hurt for maybe a few weeks of hurt, but maybe some volume to something that he already thought internally. He didn't talk to me for a year. They did end up breaking up 6 months after that, and then 6 months later, he reached out to me saying that I was the only friend willing to tell him that. And he thought about that over and over again and realized it was the truth, and they were kind of just coasting out of comfort, not wanting to pull the Band-Aid off of something that they both knew. And after a year of him being pretty angry and not talking to me, Told me I was the only friend to tell him that once they broke up, what the other 10 of us were thinking, as every friend jumped in with a text or a phone call saying, yeah, I think it's for the best. I don't think y'all were the best fit for each other. I was totally fine with being in the doghouse in this friendship for however long it took. Shit, it could have been for the rest of our lives. To avoid the pain, the car wreck that I saw and knew from watching it happen to our oldest brother. The concept of cruel to be kind is a helpful reorientation away from niceness and to true kindness, to true generosity, to giving, not taking, and a reorientation on what kindness really is, which is to the other's benefit, perhaps at your own detriment. To give, that is generosity, not to preserve, not to hold on, not to act out of fear. To do what we ought to do, not what we want to do. The entire world would be so much more harmonious if we did what we ought to do instead of what we wanted to do all the time. And think how better off you would be if everyone was truly kind to you. I always say with startups in the early stages, bad news is good news. You want to chew that up, gobble it up. The more bad news on where the product needs work or where the customers are still unmet by the product that's out there, how you're building it, how you're designing it, how you're marketing it, the more bad news early on, the better, because bad news later on is terrible news. But bad news earlier on, that's good news. When we get this feedback on ourselves, when we get that shot that can avoid that terminal disease, when we have that conversation that could help us avoid a world of hurt for a few weeks or a few months, of it feeling like harshness or cruelty, but it ultimately being kindness. Imagine what the world would look like. Imagine what our lives would look like if people were truly kind to us, if we were truly kind to others. Might be chock full of discomfort here and there. But as we say on the podcast, the more discomfort we can handle, the more comfort we are always in. That's just pure logic. The more discomfort that we can handle, the more comfort we're always in, and the more comfort we can provide to those around us, giving them those shots that help them avoid those terminal diseases, but in the moment feeling like, oh, this is cruel, this is harsh. But then on the other side of it, you, those people, your relationships survive and thrive instead of decay and die. Quite the alarming contrast between confusing niceness and kindness. And that's today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.